Welcome, everyone. I hope you've been bopping along to our catchy theme music there. Welcome, everyone, to our webinar on saving Tassie devils. My name is Sylvia Howes, and I'm from Data for Good. Data for Good is a not-for-profit organisation, and our mission is to inspire and enable people with access to data or who have data skills to use these to benefit humanity and the world. Basically connecting the right people with the right data to tackle global issues. And one of our key impact areas involves assisting not-for-profits with their data projects by providing free data experts. So if you know any projects that could benefit from this help, then please contact us. A quick bit of admin, we'll be presenting this in a webinar format, which means your videos and microphones will be off. But if you have any questions, then please type them in the Q&A box down the bottom of your screen. Type them as we go along. We won't address them immediately at the time, but we'll collect them together for some Q&A after Phoebe's done her presentation. We also have live captioning turned on for this event. So you should be able to see a CC live transcript button on the bottom right of your menu bar. If you'd like to use closed captions, then click that button and follow the instructions. Any issues, then post those in the chat box, and our host behind the scenes can assist. She'll be posting in the chat box too about live captioning. So with that admin out of the way, I'd like to say welcome, everyone. I'm joining today from the lands of the Wongal clan of the Eora Nation, with my behind the scenes host, Samantha, joining from the lands of the Darawal clan of the Eora Nation. For this webinar, we joined together from many countries and many parts of the world. And I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands that we join from today. I'd like to acknowledge the elders past who looked after the land for many years. I'd like to acknowledge their present elders who continue to give us guidance. And I'd like to acknowledge the emerging community elders. We are so lucky to have this beautiful culture that we can connect with. So welcome today. I am very excited about this webinar. And this webinar is one that's close to my heart because in times when we could travel, so, you know, before lockdowns and everything, I went to Tasmania for the first time. And I discovered this beautiful place called the Tasmanian Devil Unzoo. I discovered the work they're doing to protect the Tassie devils, and I wanted to help. Fast forward to today, and I don't want to give away any spoilers. I'm going to leave that all to Phoebe. So what I'm going to do is introduce you to Phoebe, and she'll take you through some of the work that we've been doing. Phoebe Parker is a volunteer for Data for Good and a senior consultant who works as a data engineer for our founding sponsor, Altus Consulting. While studying mathematics and computer science at La Trobe University, she discovered a love for data. At Altus, she is working with clients across the data pipeline to help them with their data solutions. She believes in data equity, and in her free time, she volunteers with us, Data for Good. And she has a passion for solving community and global issues. So Phoebe, welcome. I'm very excited to hear your update and to share it with everyone today.
Thank you so much. Let me just share my screen. Here we are. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this webinar. Today, I'll be taking you through the Data for Good Tasmanian Devil project. Since the facial tumour disease emerged, 80% of the Tasmanian devil population has been wiped out. Luckily, there are people out there like the Tasmanian Nature Company who are trying to save the devils. In my free time, I've been volunteering with Data for Good, who are working with the Tasmanian Nature Company. I'd like to quickly acknowledge that I'm on the lands of the Wurundjeri people who have been custodians of this land for thousands of years, and acknowledge and pay my respects to their elders past and present. Hi, John, would you like to say a few words?
We're very fortunate today to be joined by John Hamilton, who is the director of the Tasmanian Nature Company.
Can you hear me there?
Yes,
I have with me Paul Murray from Tourism Australia here. And the reason I'm joining you just very briefly in the middle of this very hectic tourism convention in Sydney is to basically say, look, thank you so much for all the work you're doing with this. And to demonstrate to Paul how we've got a conservation project and a technology project through Data for Good going. And it's funded from our end by visitors. So this is a tourism for conservation thing, and it's absolutely wonderful. So look, that's all I can really have time to say. I'm sorry I'm not able to join you for the presentation. Phoebe, keep up the good work, and Sylvia and Veronica, you do it as well. So thank you so much. I hope you've been able to hear this, and I'll be in touch with you all again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that was John Hamilton, the director of the UNZO, which I'll be getting into more detail about in a minute or two. So today I'll just begin by taking you through the background of the project and explaining the problem that we've been working on, and then go into detail about our current solution and the next steps for the project. Okay, so a little bit about me. I'm working at Altus as a senior data engineering consultant. I love data, and I've really enjoyed working on this project with Data for Good. So who is the Tasmanian Nature Company and what is the UNZO? The Tasmanian Nature Company is a specialist nature tour operation that runs conservation tours around the Tasman Peninsula. They also have a groundbreaking wildlife centre, the UNZO. John Hamilton is the director of the Tasmanian Nature Company. And so I don't know about you, but whenever I go to a zoo, I always feel a little bit sad for the animals that are stuck there. The UNZO aims to address this problem. It's a reversal of a traditional zoo, so there are no enclosures. Instead, it invites visitors into the animals' natural habitats. The cages or barriers are removed or concealed, and wild animals are encouraged to interact with the environment. This gives animals more dignity, freedom, and self-determination. Humans also get more personal and memorable encounters. In 2007, John Coe, a legendary zoo designer, came up with the UNZO master plan for the Hamilton family farm. The bush surrounding the UNZO attracts a whole lot of native animals. Some animals that reside there include possums, wallabies, echidnas, bandicoots, wombats, spotted quolls, almost 100 species of birds, and the last wild disease-free devil population. Before dingoes were introduced to Australia around 8,000 years ago, Tasmanian devils were actually found across the whole of Australia. Unfortunately, dingoes wiped them out, but because Tasmania had already separated from the mainland, the devil population continued to thrive there. Tasmania is the only place in the world where Tassie devils exist. The UNZO is located in the Tasman Peninsula. If we zoom in, this is the Tasman Peninsula. It's a perfect area as it's almost an island. You can see that's the canal that separates it from the rest of Tasmania. This naturally formed barrier has been enhanced by the UNZO to protect their wild devil population. This is the Google Street View of the bridge over that canal. It's very unlikely that any Tassie devils would actually try and cross this bridge, but there are also barriers placed in the canal to stop any devils trying to swim across, which also isn't likely to happen, but just in case. So why all this effort to keep the devils separated from the rest of Tasmania? The devil facial tumour disease emerged in 1996. There's no cure. Tumours form in and around the mouth, and it affects devils' ability to hunt and eat, leading to starvation. It's spread through playing and fighting, just normal devil behaviours. In diseased areas, nearly all sexually mature Tasmanian devils, those older than 2 years of age, become infected and succumb to the disease. Juveniles as young as 1 year old can also be infected. This is resulting in populations with a very young age structure in which females only have one breeding event, whereas they'd normally have 3. If the disease gets into the UNZO, it would only be a matter of time before Tassie devils are functionally extinct. Due to the isolation of the Tasman Peninsula, it's currently disease-free. It is the last safe haven for Tasmanian devils. This is a map of the devil facial tumour disease distribution from 2018. A second type of the disease emerged in 2014. There are differences, but both are fatal and both kill within months of contracting the disease. It's difficult to get data on the general population of devils due to their decline. There's no evidence of the disease stopping, and there is evidence of the devil population disappearing. You can see there's only 2 green dots on this map. Prior to 2018, there were cases of facial tumour disease in the Unzu, but the Tasmanian Nature Company cleared them out and the Tasman Peninsula has been disease-free ever since. To keep devils safe, the Tasmanian Nature Company set up the Devil Tracker project. It monitors local wild devils on a daily basis using infrared night cameras around the Unzu. The camera takes a photo when it detects movement, such as an animal walking past at night. Various animals appear in these photos as it just snaps whatever walks by it. Every day, an employee goes out to the traps, replaces the food, collects the SD cards, and then has to sit down and manually go through every single photo that was taken since the last time they collected the SD cards. Find any photos of Tasmanian devils, and then check those photos for any evidence of facial tumour disease. This is extremely time-consuming and difficult work, and it's very easy to get bored of it. They've currently got over 60,000 images, but they're just sitting on a hard drive in the Unzu office. Let's just take a step back and imagine what kind of insights and information these photos hold. Information about where individual devils go, how often they go back to the same spots, and other just general insights into their wild behaviour. Now, can you imagine what the Unzu and Tassie devil researchers could do if they could easily access this data? As the population continues to decline, this kind of information becomes more and more important. There's nowhere else in the world that can get this sort of data on disease-free devils. Luckily, they've not found any diseased devils since starting this project. If they do find one, they'd need to get to work immediately to isolate and try and protect the rest of the population from the disease. So this is where Data for Good comes in. As you know, it's a not-for-profit that encourages data professionals to use their data skills for purpose, not profit. If you're interested in helping out, please go to the website and fill in the form. It's a great way to learn, meet new people, and try new things. I've had a really great time working on this project, and I can't recommend volunteering enough. Working with the Tasmanian Nature Company, the Data for Good project team narrowed it down to 3 key questions our solution should answer. The first one is there a Tasmanian devil in the photo? This would reduce time spent sorting through photos and should be a simple-ish question to answer. The next question is, are there any signs of facial tumours or injuries? This would turn the photo checking process into a fully automated one, requiring basically no time from employees. The third question is, how often are individuals passing through the same spots? This was a question that the Tasmanian Nature Company was interested in finding out the answer to. You can tell Tasmanian devils apart by their white markings, as each devil has them in different places. So we'd need to train the model to recognize every individual devil that passed through the camera traps. With the decline of the population, there's not many places that would have the data available to answer a question like this. If we can train a model to recognize an individual devil, then we'd be able to answer a lot of other questions similar to this one. And so we begin our journey. Our first lot of photos, we just manually sorted and labeled them using Label Image on Python. It's a graphical image annotation tool in which you draw visual boxes around objects in an image. So this is what it looks like. Just a simple bounding box. You click and drag to draw it. This method's great for when you don't have many images. We had about 1,500, but it did help us get a really good feel for the data that we were working with because we went through every single one of them individually. We trained and tested a model, but the model thought that everything was a devil because pretty much all of our photos were of devils with a couple of cats in there too. So the model only knew devils, so it just thought everything was a devil. You can see that one of these is a Tasmanian devil and the other is a cat. But if you'd never seen or heard of a Tasmanian devil before, you may just think that it's a strange looking cat. And if you'd never seen a cat before, you may just think it's a strange looking Tasmanian devil. So we got more photos, including ones of other animals, and sorted and labeled them. So here are some of the photos we added. There's a bandicoot here. You can see its little eye glowing. A brush-tailed possum. Some echidnas. A feral cat from before. Some forest ravens. And a little family of pademelons. There are over 100 different species that live in and around the zoo, and not all of them are nocturnal. So we do have some photos in color and some in black and white. You can also see how similar a lot of these animals look, the little mammals, especially at night, and especially when they're only a small part of the image, such as the bandicoot. On top of that, we only had a couple of images of some of the animals. For example, the pademelons, I think we had 2 photos of them. So that's nowhere near enough data to train a model to recognize what a pademelon is, as opposed to a brush-tailed possum. So we didn't really need to know what each animal that passed through the traps. We only needed to know, is it a Tasmanian devil or is it not a Tasmanian devil? So we made the decision to have 2 classes, devil and not devil. So we thought we'd fix the issues and solved any other potential issues by adding more photos and changing all of the photos to grayscale. But the model just found a new way to cheat by using the background of the images. You can see how different the backgrounds look in these 4 images, even though there's only 3 different backgrounds. The cat and echidnas, that's the same, that's from the same location. The lighting and animal placement do make them look a little different. So we had to try and find out a way to stop the model from looking at the background of these photos. We discovered a tool called Detector. It turns out that a lot of people have the same issue that the Tasmanian Nature Company has. A huge portion of time is being spent reviewing images that they just aren't interested in. So Detector was built to allow conservation biologists to spend their time on the images that matter. This is a video of the Detector output. So Detector detects the presence of animals, people, and vehicles in camera trap images. It finds the animals, but it doesn't identify them. You can see the boxes around the animals, but no label on them. So this is basically just an automated version of what we did at the very start of the project. It will detect multiple animals or objects that are in the one shot too. So we used Detector to create a bounding box around a detected animal. We removed the camera overlays from the images and got it to add a couple of extra pixels around each animal as a buffer. We cropped the images at the bounding box when the detection confidence was over 90%. If there were multiple animals in one photo detected at a high confidence, then we extracted multiple cropped images from it. We also decided to resize all of the images to a square. This was just to try and reduce the number of variables between the images to make sure that the model was focusing on what we wanted it to be focusing on. You can see that the cropped and resized devil still looks like a Tasmanian devil, just slightly chunkier. We then needed a quick, easy way to test how we were going to test how our model was going. So we used Amazon Recognition. It's a fully managed computer vision service that allowed us to quickly train and test models with minimal coding. We had Recognition label the photos based on which folder they were in, devils or non-devils. We then started the model. So Amazon Recognition has all of these options, but they also have a custom label option, which is what we used. All of these will also work on videos. We have some videos, but we haven't given them a go yet. And the model worked. The model could detect the presence of Tassie devils in an image with a high confidence rate. This means that empty images and non-devil images could be separated automatically. An automated system could do this for hundreds of thousands of images per day. You can see the first photo, it can recognize the backs of devils. It didn't get some of the legitimately difficult blurry images that were in the data set, such as this first one. So the model made 41 mistakes out of 2006 test images. These mistakes gave us confidence that I hadn't found anything to cheat using. So some key learnings from the project. Get more photos than you think you need, and then get more. The more data, the better. It'll just save you time getting more data later on. Crop and resize your images so they're all the same size. Just get rid of, for cropping, get rid of anything that you don't need. We didn't need the backgrounds, so just get rid of it. It just makes it easier for the model. And finally, if the model can cheat, it will. Anything you can do to remove bias in your data set will help your model so much and save you from a lot of pain later on. So we've answered the first question, is there a Tasmanian devil in the photo? We have a working model that can do this automatically now. Our next task of are there any signs of facial tumours or injuries is going to be a lot more difficult, as we don't have any photos of devils with tumours from these camera traps, which is really great for the Tasmanian devils, just not great for our project and our model. We're currently waiting on images from elsewhere in Tasmania, but these images will have different backgrounds and maybe from a different type of camera. So there are going to be a lot of variables that we'll need to work through. If anyone has any camera trap images of devils with this disease, please reach out because we'd love to get as many photos as we can. And here are some links for things that I spoke about. So the first is just the Data for Good website, then the Unzoo website, and the Amazon Recognition website. Thank you so much for listening. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you so much, Phoebe, for that. It looks like it was a really fun project to work on. And obviously, you know, all these existing machine learning solutions are dealing with animals that might sort of be global, whereas when you're looking at Australian animals, you're looking at a unique set of animals, particularly with Tassie devils. I will get Catherine, can I just get you to type a question in the Q&A box and I'll direct it to Phoebe. Phoebe, how much of this process can be automated? So you said that, you know, they're collecting them off the SD cards and, you know, looking through things, and then you guys are sorting through, you know, you were training the model, you were sorting through things. How much can be automated?
So there was a small internet problem down there. So if there are Wi-Fi camera traps available that would automatically upload photos as soon as it was taken. But due to the internet issues down there, that's not really going to work currently. On top of that, these camera traps have food laid in front of them to ensure that animals are coming past them. And so an employee does have to go out to these traps once a day anyway to collect the SD cards. So that it could be automated, but it's probably not going to be. After the SD card collection though, after that, it can all fully be automated.
Yeah, cool. And with the photos that you're trying to seek of the Tassie devils that have got the disease, So the facial tumour is a very visual thing that can come across in photos. Have you heard back? Is there anyone who already has these photos, or how can we get these photos? And what happens if we can't get enough photos of the disease devils?
If we can't get enough photos, then we're going to try and augment some of them to just create more. So like flipping them around, doing things like that to the data to try and artificially make more photos. I don't think we have any at the moment, but we're hopefully getting some soon.
Yeah. And I'll just put the call out there. If like Phoebe said, if you've got access to those photos, it would be great if you could get in touch. I changed my name to connect@dataforgood.com.au. So please send through, any information you might have about where we can get those. And also, if you're a company that is just interested in Tassie Devils, but not necessarily working with Tassie Devils, if you'd like to sponsor cameras, maybe we can get in touch with a company that is able to put them up around the place and go through the process that Phoebe mentioned of collecting the photos. So if you'd like to sponsor that, get in touch too, and we'll see if we can connect you with a relevant organisation. Phoebe, can you give some examples of bias to remove so that the model doesn't cheat?
From our experience, color in photos, the background, series of images. So camera traps. If an animal walks past a trap, the camera's not just going to take one photo. It'll take a series of photos. And so you've got to make sure that you split them, you keep them in the same testing or training data set. So if you have a series of, say, 4 photos, and you have 2 of them in your trained data set and 2 of them in your test data set, well, then it'll be easy for the test data set to know exactly what they are, because they're basically the same as the ones from the training data set. Yeah.
And how big is the program that does the machine learning, and is it all in Python?
So Mega Detector is, I think it's based on Python. Recognition is just online. Yeah.
Does that mean you don't need to worry about the size limitations for things, or are there?
We've got everything uploaded into like folders on AWS.
Yeah. And is there a plan to productionize? Catherine, I'm just not 100% sure what you mean by that, but Phoebe, what would be your understanding of productionizing this?
So I think we're going to try and go as far as we can with it before productionizing. When we get to productionizing, we're going to have to think about the internet issues that they have down there. Currently, we're getting images sent to us on a USB because they can't upload them onto the cloud or anything. So yeah, we're going to have to look at how we can get the model running for them so they can easily just upload the images themselves.
Yeah. I think John joining us from Tasmania was almost like a great example of some of the internet challenges that they face. And with the end goal, so the cameras are in a particular location. If there were cameras around, distributed more widely, would it be possible to count the number of Tassie Devils? You said that individuals could be identified. Is it possible to train the program to identify those individuals and then count how many there are in a particular area?
Yeah, definitely. If we can train a model to recognize individual devils, then yeah, we'd easily be able to work that out. Yeah.
So it sounds like there's a lot of potential to expand on what's there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And we've got a question coming through. Is there anything you would do differently now that you've finished the project, or if you had more time?
I mean, there's a lot of things that we've learnt for the next stage of the project, and next time we do a project like this, such as even just using Mega Detector, that was great. It just crops it automatically. We don't have to do any of the manual bounding box work. Yeah, not so much doing differently, because it was good to learn all of those things.
Yeah, yeah. So everything's a learning experience, and now you've got the lessons that you can share with others about it.
Yeah, exactly.
So with the devils with facial tumour, this might have been more a question for John. Do they have known defining features? Like when you look at photos, you can see, the mouth, around the mouth area is a bit bulbous. And what sort of defining features are there that a camera could pick up?
So from photos that I've seen of them, I don't know how this, it doesn't look right. They're very visual. You can see the tumors there.
Yeah.
On some of the photos that we have, you can see injuries on the devils, like scratches and things like that. So you'd be able to, the camera would be able to be high enough quality to pick up the tumors.
Yeah, and actually the scratches and everything, I mean, that's a very known Tassie devil behaviour, is that when they're feeding, they're fighting over each other, and they do scratch at each other, bite off bits of ears. So that might be another contributing factor to identifying individuals, their scars and battle wounds.
Yeah.
With that, would that create interference for identifying tumours, like if they've got other injuries?
Yeah, it could. The tumors, I think they're only around the face and mouth. So it would be really, if there were scratches or things around there, then it could potentially interfere with that. Yeah.
And did you base, I think I know a bit of this background, but I'll share it. I'll send it to you anyway, Phoebe. Did you base your original program off an existing one? And if so, what animal was it for?
So we did try that. We looked at, I think, cats and maybe dogs as well. But Tassie devils were just a bit too different. So that was another one of those. Tried, didn't quite work, moved on to something else. And that's also why in the end we went with recognition, because we tried a lot of things and we really didn't want to write a full model from scratch again or anything. So yeah, that's why I went with recognition. Yeah.
So just acknowledging Mary Alice's point that there's existing programs identifying whales and kangaroos based on injuries and growths. So that could be something that could be a consideration as well. Do we have info about how accurately the images are correctly categorized? I saw you had sort of 92% or, certainty. Does that contribute to how you progress with training the model?
Yeah, so the way the images were given to us was they were in, we had a folder for Tasmanian devil images and then a folder for every other species of animal. So when we put upload the photos into recognition, we had them split out into ones that had already been categorized by the UNZU as Tasmanian devils or not Tasmanian devils. So the 41 mistakes out of 2006, that's based on the 41 images that were labeled as devil or not devil that the model then said was wrong. So we know that those were mistakes because they'd already been correctly labeled.
Yeah. And were there any machine learning explainability tools used to debug bias or issues with misclassifications?
I can't remember. I'm not sure, sorry.
Yeah, all good. Actually, maybe we can do a double check of that. And when we send out a link to the recording, which we will do to everyone who's registered, we can check if we've got an answer to that question. I see some questions coming through in the chat box too. I'll just quickly check those. Have you considered high-res thermal cameras? So these cameras are actually cameras that the Tasmanian devil UNZU set up and had existing in their environment. So high-res thermal cameras could be something that I would suggest could be placed around other areas of the mainland not mainland, a main part of Tasmania that's not the peninsula that we're referring to. Other cameras could be placed around there to collect images, and keen to hear if anyone knows of anyone doing that or who could sponsor such a project, because if the data is not available, the best time to start collecting it is now. So if we don't have it, it would be great to be able to collect it. If they do find cases of the devil facial tumour disease in that area of the peninsula, how would that happen? Would it be that they're looking at the images and they spot that, or and how would they deal with that once they're aware of that issue? So this might be a question for John Hamilton. Actually, I might see what their contingency plan is in case that happens. But are you aware of what would happen if they did discover one of those animals in that area?
I don't know the details, but I think it is just find the animal and quickly, like, I guess, kind of like COVID, like quarantine, isolate,
yeah,
try and stop it from spreading.
Yeah. So from what I've seen of Tasmania, they are quite responsive to, they've got all sorts of different types of technology to protect their wildlife. And I imagine that this would be incorporated into their management plan. So we've had a couple of questions come through about Kangaroo Island, which, so down just South Australia, they've got similar programs to look at reducing or eradicating feral cats. And also they had something similar to aid with the bushfire recovery. So I'm not sure, I'm afraid I can't answer the question about which animals have survived from there, but that's certainly something, if we find anything about any articles about the Kangaroo Island bushfire recovery or their feral cat eradication program, we'll try and incorporate those into the recording. Just checking, are there any other questions? Phoebe, you're doing a great job. We've got lots of questions that have been coming through. Have you heard of the eVortus image recognition software? Is that something that was a consideration, or is that not on your radar?
I haven't heard of it, but I remember we did look at quite a few. So that's another one. I'll go look it up and then we can put the answer when we send out the webinar. Yeah.
And these photos or the, machine learning, they haven't been sent off to other researchers yet, but would it be possible that this could happen, do you think? Like, would they'd be able to benefit from using this?
Yeah. That would be for the undo, I think, to decide and do. But yeah, I'm sure that they could. I'm sure there would be researchers out there who'd be interested in these photos, because there's so many of them. Yeah.
60,000 images is quite a number to collect, and from 3 camera traps. That's
over the course of like 7 years, been taking photos every day.
Yeah, that's why it's so important to collect data, because you sometimes at the beginning when you're setting something up, you can't visualize where it will end up in the end, but it can be very useful. And where does the processing happen? Is it on local computers or on AWS? AWS, yeah. I'll just check. We've still got a few questions coming through. Oh, thank you for sharing the article, Martha. And Nikki has suggested a Classify Me app that we could check out as well from MDPI. Another question. Was there any pre-processing applied to images before classification?
So the pre-processing was mega detector, so making grayscale and then cropping. That was the pre-processing. Yeah.
Okay, cool. We might leave it there. I can see the time, so it's 12:45. If you've got any other questions, feel free to get in touch with us. If you know of any other groups that might be able to help with getting those other images of diseased Tassie devils, please get in touch with us. or if you're a not-for-profit who is keen to get some free data assistance with any of your data projects, then please get in touch with us. So the email address is connect@dataforgood.com.au. Phoebe, thank you so much. Did you have any last words to share your newfound love for Tassie Devils, or any advice that you'd like to give anyone watching?
Just volunteer if you have some spare free time. It's been like great. I've really enjoyed it.
That's fantastic. I didn't even tell to say that. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We will send out the recording. Thank you for sending through all those great questions. And feel free to get in touch if you think you can help or if you need help from us. So I'm Sylvia, this is Phoebe. It's been great spending time with you today. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.